At family dinner, my sister's fiancé asked me a question that made everyone choke on their wine. So, what kind of jet do you fly? Until that moment, they all thought I was poor. It happened on a warm Sunday evening at my sister Claire's house. Big white walls, gold-framed photos, candles that smelled like money. I almost didn't go. I knew how these dinners went. My parents would talk about Claire's promotions, her vacations, her designer clothes. Then they'd turn to me with polite smiles, asking how my little job was going, as if they were checking on a stray dog. But I went anyway, out of habit, maybe a little curiosity. When I arrived, Claire opened the door, sparkling from head to toe in a red silk dress. "Leona," she said, looking me up and down. "You made it. Cute dress, vintage." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. My parents were already there, sipping white wine and laughing at something Evan, her fiancé, had said. He looked like the kind of man my parents dreamed of Claire marrying. Tall, confident, expensive watch. "Leona," my mother said, waving me over. "Finally. We were just talking about Claire's new promotion." I smiled, sat down, and kept quiet. That was my role, to listen, to nod, to not ruin the picture-perfect Marsh family image. Dinner was a parade of small talk and subtle jabs. Claire bragged about her new condo, her upcoming wedding, her dress fittings. My father asked Evan about his firm. My mother laughed too loudly at every joke. Then Claire turned to me with a smirk. "So, Leona, what are you doing these days?" Still, what was it, office work? She said it like she was asking about a hobby. I just smiled and said, "Something like that." The table chuckled. My dad leaned in. "You should learn from your sister. She's doing so well." I nodded. I'd heard it all before. I didn't bother explaining what I really did. Then Evan looked at me, really looked at me. "Wait," he said, frowning slightly. "Leona Marsh, that name sounds familiar." Claire laughed. "Maybe you saw her at the grocery store." But Evan didn't laugh. "No," he said slowly. "I'm pretty sure I've seen it in a report my firm handled. Something to do with aviation?" The table went silent. My mother frowned. My father chuckled nervously. "Aviation? Oh no, that must be someone else." Evan tilted his head. "No, I'm certain." Then he smiled at me, curious. "So, what kind of jet do you fly?" The sound of silverware stopped. My mother's fork covered midair. Claire blinked. My father looked from me to Evan, confused. I took a slow sip of my water and met his eyes. "Gulfstream G200, I said simply. Nobody laughed after that. The only sound was the clink of my glass as I set it down on the table. Growing up, I learned very early that I was the extra piece in my family, the one who didn't quite fit the picture they wanted to show the world. My parents cared about how things looked, the house, the cars, the friends they had dinner with. My sister Claire was their perfect child, the one who sparkled in every photo, the one they bragged about to everyone. She had long golden hair, straight white teeth, and a confidence that came from knowing she would never hear the word no. When we were little, Claire got new clothes every season. My mom took her shopping for the best brands, saying things like, "A girl should always look her best." I got her old hand-me-downs, sometimes still smelling faintly of her perfume. I didn't complain. I knew the rules. Claire shined, I stayed in the background. At school, Claire had everything handed to her. A car on her 16th birthday, paid tutors, private lessons. I worked part-time at a small diner after classes, wiping tables until my hands ached, saving every dollar I could. When I got accepted into college, my parents didn't throw a party like they did for Claire. They just said, "That's good, honey," and asked if I'd applied for scholarships. Money was always tight for me, but I never wanted to ask them for help. Every time I did, my dad sighed like it was a chore. "Leona, you need to learn responsibility," he'd say, while writing another check for Claire's new laptop or trip to Miami. They always compared us, too. My mom liked to tell people, "Leona's the smart one, but Claire's the successful one." She said it with a proud smile, as if that made it fair. I didn't argue. I just learned to let their words roll over me. When I turned 18, I packed my things and left home for good. No one stopped me. My mother hugged me lightly, my father said, "Don't call us if you get in trouble." And Claire just smiled that smug smile. They didn't think I'd last 6 months on my own. I got a tiny apartment with peeling paint and thin walls. I shared it with 2 other girls and worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. It wasn't easy, but for the first time, I felt free. Free to fail, free to figure things out for myself, free to not live in my sister's shadow. As the years passed, my parents stopped checking in. I became a quiet part of their Christmas cards, a name in the corner, proof they had another daughter somewhere. Sometimes they'd call when they needed help moving something, or when Claire wanted me to come support her big moment. But I never told them what I was really doing. I never told them how far I'd come. I learned that keeping my wins quiet was the best revenge of all. When I left home, I didn't have much, just a suitcase, a few $100s, and a quiet promise to myself that I would never go back begging. I found a job at a small tech startup downtown. It wasn't fancy, just a group of people working late nights in a cramped office that smelled like coffee and old pizza boxes. I didn't know much about business then, but I listened, learned, and worked harder than anyone else there. I was the one who stayed after hours, cleaning up files, taking notes during meetings, and asking questions others were too tired to ask. The company grew fast. What started with 5 people turned into 50 within a year. I saw how things worked from the inside, how deals were made, how risks paid off, and how timing mattered more than luck. When the startup was bought by a larger company, I got a payout from my shares. It wasn't millions, but it was enough to make a choice. I could spend it trying to look successful, or I could use it to build something real. I chose the second option. For a while, I kept investing small amounts into other small businesses, delivery services, software tools, local shops. Most didn't go anywhere, but I learned what made a business survive and what made one fall apart. Then one day, at a small business event, I met a man named Noah Gentry. He was older than me, calm and direct, the kind of person who didn't waste words. He'd been a pilot in the Air Force and had this quiet idea about starting a private jet charter service for business clients who needed flexible travel without owning their own planes. Something about the idea stuck with me. I'd been saving quietly, and when Noah showed me his plans, I knew it could work. I put in half the funding and became his partner. He handled the flight operations and technical side. I managed the business structure, clients, and logistics. It started small, with one leased jet and a few loyal customers. But we ran it with honesty and care. Word spread. Soon one jet became 2, then 3. Noah used to joke that I could afford to brag about our success, but I never wanted to. I didn't post about it, didn't tell friends, and definitely didn't tell my family. I drove an old car, wore simple clothes, and rented a quiet house away from the city. I didn't need to prove anything. Every time I saw families like mine showing off their lives, I felt even more sure about my choice. I didn't need attention. I just wanted peace, and maybe one day, a reason to smile when the people who once looked down on me finally realized what I had built while they weren't paying attention. It had been months since I last heard from my sister when she suddenly called one afternoon. Her voice was sweet, almost too sweet. "Leona, you have to come to dinner this weekend," she said. "You haven't met Evan yet, my fiancé. He's from a wonderful family. They own properties all over the country." She paused, as if waiting for me to sound impressed. I just said, "That's nice," but she kept going, talking about how elegant the dinner would be and how important it was that the whole family was there. A few hours later, my mother called too. "Your sister really wants you to come," she said in that tone that wasn't really a request. My father added, "Don't embarrass us, okay? Dress nicely." It wasn't a surprise. They only remembered me when they needed to show off the complete family. I didn't want to go, but something in me said I should. Maybe I was just tired of avoiding them. That Saturday, I stood in front of my mirror, staring at the thrifted navy blue dress I had picked out. It wasn't fancy, but it fit well and felt comfortable. I brushed my hair into a simple bun and picked up a modest bottle of red wine. It was the best I could do, and honestly, I didn't care to impress anyone. When I arrived, Claire opened the door with that same polished smile. She looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Her dress shimmered under the chandelier light. Her ring sparkled like she wanted the whole world to see it. "You made it," she said, giving me a hug that felt stiff and practiced. "Oh, you didn't have to bring anything." Her eyes flicked to the bottle of wine like it was a joke. Inside, the dining table was already set with shining silverware and tall glasses. My parents sat beside Evan, who looked calm and kind in a quiet sort of way. My mother stood to greet me, patting my shoulder lightly. "Leona, you look nice," she said, as if she'd run out of compliments. My father just nodded, already turning back to Evan to ask him about his firm. Dinner started smoothly, at least for them. Claire talked nonstop about the wedding, the honeymoon, the expensive resort they'd booked. My mother praised Evan's career, her voice full of pride. "Finance is such a respectable field," she said, glancing at me as if to remind me that I wasn't in one. My father added, "Evan's family owns a lake house in Vermont. Maybe someday we'll all visit." Claire laughed, pretending modesty, while I stayed quiet, smiling when spoken to. Every so often, Evan looked at me, studying me in a way that wasn't rude, just curious. Maybe he noticed how I didn't flinch at the jabs or force fake laughter like the others. He seemed puzzled, like he could tell there was something I wasn't saying. And I was fine with that. Some things were better left unsaid. The evening started off tense, but at least polite. Everyone was pretending to be nice, passing dishes around, laughing at small jokes. I could feel it though, that quiet judgment sitting in the air like smoke. Claire was glowing under the soft lights, showing off her ring every time she lifted her wine glass. My mother's eyes followed her every move, full of pride. At first, I just sat quietly, cutting my food into small pieces, trying to stay out of the spotlight. But it didn't last long. Claire noticed my shoes when I crossed my legs. They were plain black flats, comfortable and simple. She tilted her head and smiled in that sharp way she had. "Those are cute," she said, her voice dripping with fake kindness. "They look like something I used to wear in college before I could afford real leather." My father laughed, thinking it was harmless. My mother joined in. "Leona never cared much for style," she said. "But maybe one day she'll find a man who'll take her shopping." Her tone was light, but her meaning wasn't. Evan shifted in his chair. His smile faded a little. "Come on, Mom," Claire said softly, pretending to scold but clearly enjoying herself. "Leona likes being independent, don't you?" Then she turned to me with a grin. "Though maybe too independent. Still single, huh?" I looked down at my plate, fighting the urge to answer. The old me might have tried to defend myself, but I'd learned better. Nothing I said would change their minds. Evan looked at me again, this time more seriously. "Leona," he said gently, "what do you do for work?" His tone was kind, genuine, not like the others. I opened my mouth to reply, but Claire jumped in before I could say a word. "She's between things," she said quickly, laughing. "You know how it is, trying to find something that fits." My mother chuckled too, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "Leona's always been a free spirit," she added. "She'll figure it out." The table laughed. My father poured himself more wine. I sat still, my fork resting on the plate, the laughter echoing around me. Evan didn't join in. He looked puzzled. Then he frowned slightly, like something had just clicked in his mind. "Wait," he said, turning toward me. "Leona Marsh, your name sounds familiar. Have I seen it somewhere?" Claire rolled her eyes. Maybe she signed up for one of those email lists. Evan ignored her. "No," he said slowly. "I think I saw your name on a sponsor list for a charity event. Something about private aviation?" The laughter stopped. My mother blinked. My father's hand froze midair. Claire stared at him, her smile gone. "Aviation," she said, her voice thin. "Leona." I didn't answer. I just looked at Evan, and for the first time all night, he looked like the only person at that table who wanted to know the truth. Evan kept looking at me like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Everyone else had gone back to chatting about the wedding venue, but he wasn't done. His tone was calm but curious. "So, what kind of jet do you fly?" he asked suddenly, his eyes still on me. For a second, nobody moved. The clinking of glasses stopped. My mother blinked, unsure if she heard right. Claire's head turned sharply toward him. My father gave a small laugh, thinking it was a joke. I didn't look away. "Gulfstream G200, I said quietly, taking a sip of water. Then the laughter came. It started with my mother, that light, high-pitched laugh she used when she wanted to smooth over something uncomfortable. My father joined in, shaking his head. "Oh, that's a good one," he said. "Our Leona, flying jets now." Claire laughed the loudest. "Please," she said between giggles. "She can barely afford gas for her car." I didn't say anything. I just smiled and let them laugh. The sound rolled over me like waves. I'd lived through worse. But Evan didn't laugh. He was staring at me with this thoughtful look, his hand resting against his chin. "Wait," he said, almost to himself. "You're not joking, are you?" The laughter stopped again. My mother's smile froze on her face. Claire frowned. "Oh, come on, Evan," she said quickly. "She's messing with you." Evan ignored her. "Gulfstream G200, he repeated slowly. "That's a business jet, right? Midsize? You'd need serious licensing or ownership to even mention that model." I nodded slightly. "That's right." He leaned back, his mind clearly turning. "Sky Vista," he murmured, as if remembering something. Then he looked at me again, his expression sharper now. "Leona Marsh, you're with Sky Vista Charters, aren't you?" My mother looked confused. "What's that?" she asked. "It's a private aviation company," Evan said. My firm handled some of their investment portfolios last quarter. His tone had changed completely, respectful now, even a little surprised. They own several aircrafts, one of them a Gulfstream G200. Claire's face drained of color. That can't be right, she said quickly. There must be another Leona Marsh. Evan didn't answer her. His eyes stayed on me, searching for confirmation. I didn't give any. I just smiled again, soft and calm, and placed my napkin neatly beside my plate. The silence around the table grew heavy. For once, no one seemed to know what to say. Evan's phone buzzed on the table, and he picked it up like it gave him an excuse to step away. Sorry, he said politely, standing. Work call. Claire smiled proudly, assuming he was handling something important. My mother joked about how hardworking he was. I just sat there, quiet, my fingers resting lightly on my glass. He left the dining room, his footsteps fading into the hallway. The room was full of the soft clinking of forks and knives again, but the air felt different now. I could feel my sister watching me, though she pretended to stay focused on her food. He's just being polite, my mother said with a forced smile. You shouldn't take his questions too seriously, Leona. He's curious about everything. I didn't, I said simply. Claire gave a short laugh. Good. Because you had him thinking you actually owned a jet. Can you imagine? My father chuckled, shaking his head. Evan will have a good laugh about it later, he said. He's probably calling a friend to tell the story. But Evan wasn't gone long. When he came back, he looked thoughtful. His eyes went straight to me as he took his seat. Sorry about that, he said quietly, but there was a new tone in his voice, something sharp, aware. Claire leaned toward him. Everything okay? She asked sweetly. He nodded slowly. Yeah, everything's fine. Then, without looking at her, he turned to me. So, Leona, he said in that same polite voice, how long have you been in aviation? The sound of his question hit the room like a dropped plate. My father's head jerked up. My mother froze mid-bite. Claire blinked, her smile faltering. I met his eyes and said, about 5 years. He nodded once, clearly already knowing the answer. That's impressive, he said. You've built quite a name for yourself. Nobody spoke after that. My father cleared his throat, pretending to study his plate. My mother gave a weak smile that didn't last long. Claire stared at me, her lips pressed tight, color rising in her cheeks. Evan leaned back in his chair, still watching me. Skyvista Charters, he said softly, almost to himself. I knew I'd seen your name somewhere. It's a solid company, great reputation. Claire snapped her head toward him. What are you talking about? She asked. Her voice was sharper now. He didn't answer right away. He just smiled slightly, like he was seeing me for the first time. You never mentioned your sister worked in aviation, he said to Claire. She laughed nervously. Well, she doesn't really. She just. But her voice trailed off because nobody was listening anymore. My parents avoided my eyes, embarrassed. Evan's attention was still on me, steady, respectful, almost admiring. For the first time that evening, the table felt different. The power in the room had shifted, and everyone knew it. 3 days after that dinner, I heard a knock on my door early in the morning. When I opened it, Claire stood there, still dressed like she was on her way to a photo shoot. Neat hair, expensive perfume, and that fake smile she used when she wanted something. Hey, she said lightly, stepping inside before I could even invite her. I just wanted to clear the air about dinner. I didn't answer right away. She walked around my small living room, her heels clicking against the floor. Her eyes moved over everything. The simple furniture, the plain walls, like she was searching for proof that I wasn't who Evan thought I was. Evan's been asking questions, she said finally. About your company. About you. Her smile tightened. You really had him fooled, didn't you? I crossed my arms. I didn't fool anyone. I just answered a question. She laughed, but it came out sharp. Oh, please. You knew what you were doing. Sitting there acting all quiet, letting him think you're some big-shot businesswoman. I never said anything, I said calmly. Her eyes narrowed. You humiliated me, Leona. In front of my fiancé. In front of Mom and Dad. They think you're some kind of success story now. You made me look stupid. I stayed quiet, letting her words hang in the air. She hated silence. It made her lose control. Finally, she snapped. You know what? I told them the truth. I told them whatever you're doing must be shady. Nobody builds a company like that alone, not without cutting corners. Dad's furious. He says you'd better clear the family name before people start talking. I felt my chest tighten, but not from guilt, from disappointment. I shouldn't have expected anything better. Get out, Claire, I said softly. Her mouth dropped open. Excuse me? You came here to insult me, not to talk. So you can leave. She stared at me, shocked that I wasn't backing down. For once, I didn't lower my eyes or apologize. I just opened the door and waited. After a long, tense moment, she walked out, her heels clacking angrily down the hallway. An hour later, my phone rang. It was my father. His voice was cold. Whatever nonsense you told your sister, fix it, he said. People are asking questions. We don't want our name mixed with anything illegal. Then he hung up. I stood there for a long time, staring at the phone. I had done nothing wrong, but they'd already chosen to believe the worst. That was the moment I decided I was done staying quiet. A week later, my business partner Noah mentioned that one of our regular clients had booked several flights for a large event at the Lakeview Grand Hotel. When I checked the booking list, I froze. The names at the top were Claire Marsh and Evan Callister. It was their engagement party. For a moment, I almost laughed. Life really had a strange way of working things out. That same hotel often used our jets to fly in their high-end guests, so I called Noah and asked for one small favor. Make sure the SkyVista G200 is parked right by the private terminal entrance, I said. And keep my name printed on the side. He didn't ask questions. He knew me well enough not to. On the night of the party, I arrived quietly. I wasn't invited, of course, but I didn't need to be. Our company had arranged transportation for a few of the event's VIP guests, so I had every reason to be there in a professional sense. The hotel's grand ballroom glittered with golden glass, and outside, the SkyVista jet gleamed under the evening lights. I saw Evan before he saw me. He was greeting guests, trying to smile, though something in his face looked tired. Claire stood beside him in a shining silver dress, soaking in the attention. I stayed near the entrance, keeping to myself. Then I noticed Evan pause. Through the tall glass windows, he caught sight of the jet parked outside. He squinted, stepped closer, and I knew the moment he saw it. The silver lettering that read SkyVista Charters with my name underneath as co-founder. His expression changed completely. He turned, scanning the room, and his eyes landed on me. He walked straight over, ignoring the people calling his name. Leona, he said quietly when he reached me. That jet outside, it's yours, isn't it? I nodded. Partly. My company owns it. He stared at me for a long moment, then said softly, Claire told me you were lying. She said it was all some trick. It wasn't, I said simply. But I don't blame you for believing her. He frowned. She also said you were trying to embarrass her that night. I looked at him calm. I didn't have to. She did that herself. Later that night, as guests laughed and music played, I saw Evan take Claire aside. Their smiles were gone. They spoke in sharp tones, his face growing harder with every word. By the time I left, the engagement ring was no longer on her finger. Weeks passed after the engagement party. Life moved on quietly, just the way I liked it. The noise, the tension, the family drama, all of it had finally faded. One morning, I was sitting in my office going through flight schedules when my phone buzzed with a message. It was from my mother. Her text was short and awkward, the kind that said more in what it didn't say. Leona, we didn't know everything. I'm sorry for the things we said. Take care of yourself. That was it. No long apology, no excuses. Still, it felt heavier than anything she'd ever told me before. I stared at it for a moment, then put the phone down. I didn't feel angry anymore, just tired and strangely at peace. I later learned that Claire had moved out of town. Some said she went to stay with an aunt for a while. Others said she left for a fresh start. I didn't ask. After everything, I didn't need details. What happened between her and Evan wasn't my concern anymore. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted peace. A few days later, I drove out to the airfield where our hangars stood. The evening light stretched long across the tarmac, soft and golden. One of our jets, the same Gulfstream that started all this, was getting ready to take off. Mechanics moved around it, checking panels and running tests. Noah waved when he saw me. Heading out, he asked. Just watching, I said with a small smile. He nodded and went back to work. I stood near the open hangar doors, the smell of jet fuel in the air, the soft hum of engines filling the quiet. When the plane began to roll forward, its silver body caught the sunlight just right, and for a moment, I saw my name reflected faintly on its side. It wasn't pride I felt then, it was calm. I had built something real, something lasting, without ever needing to prove it to anyone. All those years of being dismissed, ignored, laughed at, none of it mattered now. I didn't need an audience. As the jet lifted smoothly into the sky, I whispered to myself, not out of anger, but with quiet certainty. They called me poor, until they realized what I'd built while they weren't looking. And for the first time in years, I felt completely free.